Something about the phrase, all things are not what they seem, or the phrase that Jordan Maxwell uses, nothing in this world works the way you think it does. Those two statements have been in my mind since I first heard each of them. And it has been some of the fuel that my mind has used, that I've used to begin to explore what else is possible. When you do any thinking about any of the stories that you may have heard about days of old, as an example, the old Vedic stories of Ali Baba and the flying carpet. I've said it in another video, I don't think it was the carpet, I think it was Ali Baba. We hear stories that are presented to us, to us in mythical, magical types of scenarios. So it's presented to us in a way that we generally don't necessarily take serious or consider as real. It's a story. It's a fairy tale. It's a myth. It's a legend. As one example, the Bible says, and I'm not one of them, but the Bible says, I hate those people because they don't use any other form of logic to base their decisions off of. But it is a religious text. And one of where it says that I forget, it says, all these things you can do, or all these things I can do, you can do and more. What is it? Something like, for ye are gods, or something like that. Think about that for a second. Then in Genesis 11:6, I think it is, when whatever the hell it is out there that came down here and destroyed the Tower of Babel and broke up our language, whether that was our DNA or our verbal language or both, he says, they are one. Nothing that they have imagined to do will be restrained from them. Now think of those two quotes, and that shit, people, is coming out of the Bible. It's coming out of the Bible. I'm telling you, I've said this before. They take little pieces of the truth and strew it through. It's strewn through these texts, even some of the ones that were created by man to control your mind. They know we're reasonably intelligent, so we're going to start linking stuff up. They've got to have nuggets of the truth in there, and that's a digression. I'm sorry. But the point is, in these religious texts, in that religious text, actually the Bible is a book containing multiple religious texts, all these books. So we see it written in multiple places. That they are one, that they are gods, all these things I do, you can do and more, for ye are God, or something. I forget the exact phrasing, but it alludes to something like that. Now, a lot of the New Agey stuff you'll hear, and I'm constantly lambasting New Agey stuff because, well, I ran in those circles for a while, and I saw these people who are so into the spiritual bypassing, how rampant huge egos are, how unspiritual some of these people are that just play the part because, well, they can get chicks or whatever it is. But anyway, there's still some principles in there that parallel this stuff. You know, we're all stars. We're all God. I've heard this concept more and more and more about this power we supposedly have, this ability. Now, New Agey stuff will tell you, you are creators. And that gets bastardized when you see things like the Law of Attraction movie, The Secret, and other stuff that trivializes it and makes it look like stuff that should be parlor tricks and in a magic shop. For a long time, we as a species, something's been coming after us. Something's been doing a number on us. Forces from outside of this realm have been working on us. Now, I have alluded and said blatantly, that's because we were designed vulnerable, weakened, or vulnerable, ignorant, and all these aspects and attributes of us that are so manipulatable. And they are, and everything that I said there, I believe to be 110% true. But I've just more and more begun to contemplate why. It's a big, vast universe out there. There's lots of sources of food out there, wouldn't there be? Or not? Or, wait, I'm just beginning to run in my mind, what are we really? We seem to be getting a lot of attention for a while now in this greater cosmic community. And this depends on what you know, what you believe, what information you've been taking in to give you a sense of what's really going on in this world and, the forces that are affecting it. All of the stories that we've heard throughout the last several generations about abductions and sightings and crashes and, the advance in technology that's just sprung up out of nowhere, in the last 70, 80 years since Roswell and that crash or whatever. You start putting this stuff together and just asking bigger questions. Again, it comes from that whole concept that I preach to everybody, and I use that word extremely loosely, of getting out of the box and considering what else is possible. So why do you think we're such an interesting thing? Is that the right question to pose to you? What I'm trying to say is, let me think of how to phrase this. This is, it's kind of, this one I'm going to acknowledge, it's going to sound really out there, but I have to be very, I don't want to say careful, but specific with what it is how I craft what I'm trying to say, and not with like a craftiness, like just craft the phrase using the right words. When you look at things, people are capable of some interesting stuff. Maybe we have more power than we ever knew. And we really do. Think about it. We have the power of a God within us to create life, not individually. I can't just like drop a seed somewhere and boom, it's going to grow. I have to have a woman who has to have an egg. But whatever created us broke that full, complete power of Godship, if you will, and just follow me on this, kind of broke it in half, gave the female one half of the key to that power and the male the other half. There's some interesting things about us that I guess what I'm trying to say is it seems like something else in a myriad of ways, coming from a myriad of levels, a myriad of efforts, are trying to shut this stuff off in us for a reason. And when you start thinking about how much effort has been put in to shutting these things off in us, it's been coming at us on all fronts. I said that before. For a very long time, religion has had a vice grip on our minds, containing our minds into a very tight, neatly crafted, confining box, tightly confining, neatly crafted box that, unfortunately, most people are all too happy to exist within. And it's an extremely limited, myopic perception from which to view and experience the world, from the box handed to you by religious dogma and the shit that men have told you. And when you look at it, you step back away from it and look at where the source of these stories come in, these men have given all of us about, for instance, religion. One of the things that by its default keeps us on our knees, begging for forgiveness, etc., etc. Look at how that's conditioning our minds from a very young age. And this begins a foundational thing. This begins a foundational perspective that human will have from that indoctrination, if you will, that God is... It's hard to explain without sounding like I'm lambasting, quote unquote, God. It's not that. It's like, I think it's a lot further removed from this whole thing than we are. I think most of this God story we've been told is just the idea that man has put in front of us to instill fear into us. It's a fear-based God. It's a wrathful God. It's a jealous God. It's a vengeful God. It's all these things that we're told. The devil's going to get you, hellfire and brimstone, gnashing of teeth, all hell of eternity. It's just been one big horror show. That's the religious story. And that if you believe in this one person, because this beautiful creator deity only created this one fucking way for his beautiful creation to fucking reach this certain state, it's just like, are you fucking kidding me? We have bought this shit. Muslims bought their version of it, Christians bought their version of it, and all these other religions bought their version of it. Meanwhile, the Jews are working with that Kabbalistic magic they got from the Egyptians way back in the day. Where did the Egyptians go? Oh, that's right. We seem to see these societies that, boom, they're gone. And I would suggest to you that some of these societies, for better or for worse, and they may be societies that are functioning under pretenses and principles that have them on the left-hand path. Some of the older Egyptian stuff was certainly sacrificial and wasn't rooted in benevolence, but there was some serious power being utilized there. You think that was the devil? Oh, the devil. That was before the New Testament, where all that shit has come. The whole concept of the devil was introduced in the way that it has been. It could be a little off in my history, but we're talking the Egyptian days 5,000 years ago. What I'm suggesting is some of the stuff they were doing had a lot of power. Whole civilization, gone. Yeah. I mean, what's left are remnants. Remnants. Where did all that power go? Where did they all go? What I'm getting at is they tapped into some of the power that was available to them using magic, spells, and alchemy, and all kinds of other things. You look back at the South American civilizations that, gone, Mayans, gone, Incans, boom, gone. And these were societies that were deep into shamanism, deep into ritual, blood sacrifice, the power of blood. It's interesting. So what I'm suggesting, and that's all left-hand path, that's all evil, negative, dark side shit. I don't know that we've ever run into too many civilizations that I know of that have also vaporized, that were on the right-hand path and, in blissful, harmonious joy, and they've ascended to the next level. I don't know that we hear a whole lot of stories about that. Maybe that's happened and it's been wiped out of our history. Who knows? The biggest point I'm trying to make, and I'm 13 minutes in, I haven't fully made the point, so I'm sorry. It's just, there's a lot to try to explain, a lot of littler, smaller nuggets of understanding, if you will, or comprehension to understand, to really wrap your mind around the bigger whole that, what if we are so much more powerful based off of simply nothing more than what it is that genetically engineered us? We may have more power in us than we could possibly fathom, simply as a byproduct of what these bastards did when they came down here and dinked around with our DNA using their genetics. Using their genetics. We may now have abilities that we necessarily weren't intended to have, that Prime Creator, if that theory that I have recently formulated, that Prime Creator created everything, we in this hominid form, however we came out of the soup or whatever, it created a four-legged creature and said go and grow, and we were going to evolve. Something came here and modified that. Something came here and fucked with that. We see the fusing of the genomes. We see the fusing in the human double helix. Something came here and fucked with us because we don't see that fusing anywhere else in living in natural in history, or the natural world, I guess you could say. What if we have more ability simply based on the fact of what engineered us used some of what they have? Well, I mean, themselves. They used aspects of themselves. Maybe this is crazy. Maybe there's no truth to this at all. But it makes sense why there's been such a concerted effort coming at us from all fronts to control the shit out of us. Think about that for a second. I mean, there's a couple of ways you could rationalize why there has been such a concerted effort to control, dumb down, stupefy, keep ignorant the vast majority of the human species for thousands of years now. I mean, seriously, ponder this with me. Could we possibly be so much more than our own even knows, so much more than we've ever been told? And maybe, the Buddhists are tapping into some aspects of what we are. The Hindus are tapping into certain aspects of what we are. Some of the shaman that have been doing their stuff are doing certain things. And throughout the course of history, we see little bits and pieces that they can't or don't get rid of that are like the breadcrumb trails for us all to start, putting together at some point. That, when you look at the old stories of old Celtic, Nordic, way back then, trolls and gnomes and fairies and all those other types of things, certain men had power, certain women had power. Some of it was magical. It's like always hearing the stories of certain humans, and I would suggest it developed in them. They were taught. It was just accidentally turned on. I would suggest that some of this genetic stuff that we have, some of this stuff that we have the ability to potentially do, that's part of our genetic makeup, that they have turned off. It's been several thousand years. We've been cross-breeding, cross-mixing our blood. There could be anomalous things that take place when you start doing that for as long as we have, where I don't know, the veil of the firewall that they've put over this shit gets a little thinner and not as strong because of genetic mixing. And I'm not saying genetic mixing in a bad connotation, but it's a theory. And, we see, as an example, a woman who was, born when she was young and she was a kid, something was turned on in her that she could never, and now she's grown up and now she's a clairvoyant, she's a seer, she's a sage, she's into magic, she can read tarot and tell you what's going to happen to you for the next year and with amazing accuracy. Or a guy who was born and somehow can work with energy in this weird way, and every time you get around him, the hair on your body stands up because he's got this energy thing. Little bits and pieces. We see certain things turned on in certain people in little amounts and large amounts, whether they've cultivated it themselves, it was a freak of the genetic block that was put on us, or any other thing. So all of this I'm trying to say, when you look at the concerted effort that's been coming at us, closing down our minds, toxifying our bodies, chemically dumbing us down, chemically neutering us, calcifying the pineal gland, causing all of these problems in our energy body, our mental body, our psychological body. They've been trying to knock us off kilter, keep us under their thumb. Who are they? I don't fucking know. The people that have been at the helm of this ridiculous shit that humanity's been experiencing for 7,000 fucking years, from slavery to death and destruction and black plagues and crusades and just the shit religion has done and government has done, and just greedy piece of shit assholes that have been imposing this shit upon all of us. Okay, let's look back and say, why would there be such a large concerted effort to so grotesquely and profoundly manipulate an entire race of beings? We're energy beings. Where'd that come from? What can we do with that energy? Whether it was given to us by the demigods, by the gods, and I use the word gods with quotes because they're not gods, they're advanced beings, period, paragraph. They've been around longer than us. They developed themselves for longer, tens of thousands of years, millions of years potentially. They have more technology. They've just advanced in levels that they came here, they fucking created us, they manipulated us, and because of some aspect of whatever genetics they have from wherever they come from, now we have these abilities, and they were like, oops, shit. We're really immature. We're really ignorant. We don't have much of a moral fabric when you look at us as a species. Could it be that this has been happening to us to keep us contained, to keep us down on purpose, to keep us from getting out, to keep these things shut off because we haven't matured? We haven't gotten out of our own way as a fucking species. Therefore, we can't get out into the greater cosmic community in any vast numbers for that. Because when you look at what we do on this planet with what it is that we do have, what the fuck do you think we would do to the greater cosmic community if we get out there? I would suggest to you that there's races of beings and technology that are so fucking far advanced beyond what it is that we are, that if we got out there showing our asses in the vaster cosmic community, there are beings and races and technologies and things that could put an end to us very, 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 very quickly. So we should probably consider ourselves lucky that we have been contained because of the condition that we're in, because what it is that we would probably do to just once we got out, thinking we're all that and a bag of cookies as well, probably get us exterminated. So, but I know this sounds bizarre. I fully get it. I fully contemplated how bizarre this sounds when in contrast to the stories that we're told. I just think that there might be something to the fact why so much effort has been put into shutting us off, dumbing us down, chemically lobotomizing us. The power structure on the planet knows what we're capable of as a species, as a race of beings, individually. And they don't want us to cultivate these things. They have spent so much time putting in front of us mechanisms of entertainment and triviality to distract us, to stimulate the sexual urges in all of us, the males and the females. We all think below the fucking belt to a certain degree. I don't give a damn. You could get a little older and that urge die down in you a little bit, but, if you're being honest with yourself, you know how we're driven by sex. You know how that works. And think of how much they've been playing to distract us, to keep us dumping out the energy we have. The people at the highest levels of power on this planet, the ones who are really affecting everything falling downhill all the way down to our experience on such a large level, I assure you they're well aware of who and what we are, what we're capable of doing. And it's how or it's what motivates them to put forth such a large concerted effort to mindfuck us into oblivion, to chemically lobotomize us, to occult all of the information that the vast majority of us would have available to us to learn about these things. And then they have put in front of us trivialities by way of drugs to occupy our mind, entertainment to occupy our minds, and all of this shit, sex that they use to occupy and distract our minds, porn to occupy and distract the mind, sports to occupy and distract the mind. And as much as we're capable of, it's interesting, we're so fucking ignorant and so easily manipulatable that it could go either way. It's like, damn, if something would have come here and saw what we are and was loving and benevolent and said, look at what these beings are, we could, and for, not that they would have any motivation to do so, but cultivate us to be, I mean, fuck, we could be. Look at what happens to humans when catastrophe happens. Seems weird. All of a sudden, what's really in us comes out, and we seem to pull together. We seem to look out for each other. We seem to actually give a shit about each other. We seem to care about each other. They've been trying to divide that from us, cut that off, and they've done such a good job of it that it only happens in periods of major catastrophe. Like, seriously, has anyone contemplated this? I mean, the gods came down here and destroyed everything because what were we? Oh, wait a minute. They were one. They are one. They are one. And the level of power that is in that and what we were doing. Think about it. We as a species were so advanced back then. I mean, we very well may be a newer version of humanity than what was around in the Tower of Babel. They might have recognized we were too smart. They needed to turn off a few extra things in us genetically. And we might have been another version of us that was more dumbed down, has been brought forward since the days of the Tower of Babel. And that might have been part of the genetic tweaking, or more of the genetic tweaking. I don't know how much you guys know about this stuff, but there's been more than one version of us. There really has. These guys, you know, they created a version. They worked with animals. They worked with a lot of different stuff before they found the right mixture of their DNA and us. Their sperm, our sperm, their egg, put us in one of their wombs, their female wombs. Boom. They figured it. Then they created a version of us that couldn't procreate, and they had to go back to the drawing board and do it again. There was a lot of genetic tweaking of us, and it's crazy how much the population at large doesn't know that these are the origins of us. But in that tweaking, I firmly believe there were some capabilities, some abilities that began to manifest in us, and the gods knew it. We began to know it. Whether or not the demigods, the demiurge, whatever the hell that was, that supposedly gave us this knowledge that we weren't supposed to have, the demigods were the fallen sons of man, or there's offspring or something that had great knowledge and taught us things. I've said this before, that supposedly that's where we got the mystery school arts and stuff like that. Okay, I think that's possibly true, or lots true, or partially true. But I think man may very well have recognized, maybe we do have some, and began to practice these things or develop these greater arts ourselves. In the effort to further see and explore the realms of what we are capable of doing. You know, an interesting thing, and I mean this, and I really mean this, and it's interesting because apparently I have more Christians in my subscriber base than I knew. I don't know how, with the shit that's come out of my mouth. I've attracted Christians, but somehow they've come to my channel. I don't know, and I just lost my train of thought. Damn it. Hang on a second. Well, yeah, I just lost it. Anyway, if you're watching the video, you probably are thinking to yourself, dude, I don't know, I'm in the middle of it, and my brain just just brain farted. So anyway, overall, what I'm suggesting is it's more than likely, it's highly probable. It's more than just it might be, and it's highly probable. There is so much more to us than most of us have ever contemplated. Why? Because most of us has allowed the version of what it is we think we are, what it is we think we're capable of, what it is we think we can do, what it is and all this stuff, that has been handed to most people, all of us basically, and until you start applying critical thought and questioning some of this shit, that maybe some of this becomes more obvious, that there's been such a concerted effort to do what's been done to us to keep us down. I fully 110% acknowledge the fact that we can't advance too fast without developing the moral and spiritual fucking foundations that it's quite abundant a lot of us on this planet do not have. And if those people were allowed to, I use the word in quotes very loosely, allowed, meaning, I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say, but if we were all allowed to tap into these things, if there wasn't an effort to shut us off, I wonder what the hell we would turn into without that moral fabric. That could get really bad. I mean, that could get really bad. When you start looking at what certain people do, the psychopathy on this planet does with what power they can manifest, it's kind of horrible. So until we collectively reach a critical mass of moral understanding and spiritual understanding of the greater truths of being a member of a greater cosmic community and natural law and not imposing ourselves on, they're probably really going to continue to come at us to keep us down, to keep us contained, to keep us controlled, because we're like children. We're like, if they stopped fucking with us and we were able to develop it, we might be like monkeys with a fucking loaded gun. I mean, look at us. We're damn near that to our own kind right now. I mean, I hate to use that analogy, but could it be possible? I mean, again, this is me trying to look at all this stuff from all different angles and contemplate how we got here, what they're doing, why they're doing it, what would be their motivations. Is it more than just a food source tying into, could we be more than we think we are? Because there's a lot of potential things when you start tying in the things that we've heard. When I say we've heard, it depends on who you are, how much time you've taken to study, to contemplate, to take in information outside of the shit they tell you on TV. You know, I have a few people that I know who they swear on what they learned on the Discovery Channel and Nova. And if it wasn't on the Discovery Channel or Nova, then it wasn't important enough for us to know about. And I'm just like, oh my God, how do you get through to that? You're like, how do you get through to that? Anyway, yeah, again, morning coffee material for me. Just contemplating why all this has been done to us. This is where the genesis of this video came from, me saying, you know, what the hell is it about us that makes us so interesting and makes us so what we are, I guess, in that we're slaves, we're easily manipulatable and all that other stuff. So I would love to have other individuals that were open-minded enough to consider these things and pitch and catch, because I clearly see that we were designed on many levels. It's like almost a blueprint to be vulnerable and to be food. But then there's these other aspects of us that I clearly see are there that I honestly think may more have been an accident in the genetic creation of us, the genetic modification. These are attributes. Their DNA is really powerful shit. They're capable of an awful lot of stuff. They're some really advanced beings. They've evolved a lot longer than we have. They use just a little bit of their DNA and boom, we become so much more than we ever were just because of what they are. I mean, seriously, I think there's more to this than meets the eye. It's hard to quantify. Do we have a lot of proof of that? No. Does that easily put me into the margin of this fucking guy's crazy as shit? Because these people have done so much to do so much to us, take away information from us, occult information that they don't want us to have. Why do you think they don't want us to have it? There's got to be more than just they can control us. I'm sure that's a big part of it. But you see what I'm saying here? I tell you, you can almost run yourself freaking nuts trying to figure it out. There's so much to contemplate. There's so much that's been done to us. There's so much misinformation out there, disinformation that's been purposefully put out there to confuse us. And when you step back from all of that and look and say, why the fuck would these people be doing that? Why would our own kind be doing that? Why would these beings from another world be so interested in us on this little blue marble way the fuck out in our part of the universe? I mean, really, we're not bothering anybody. Here in our little immature state, growing up, figuring out who we are as a species and evolving, whatever. Who are we bothering? But they certainly come here. What's so fucking interesting about us? You see what I mean? What's so interesting about us? I mean, could it just simply be there's just enough of us and we're so goddamn vulnerable that, you know, in the universe, this just happens to be one place they came to hunt for food, and oh, look what was created. And whatever created it, they left. So they wrap the napkin around their necks, rubbing their hands together, like, damn, boys, it's dinner time. Could it be just that trivial? And all of this has been done to us to, like, just mind fuck us all from seeing it? I mean, I know, I'm running myself a little bit in circles here, pondering this. Sometimes it happens to me, and when I recognize it, I snap out of that cycle. But this is kind of how it works for me sometimes. I start with just one foundational question. Why has all this been happening to us? I certainly don't start with one that's like really easy or trivial. Why has all this been happening to us? And looking at that from a 360 degree, and okay, food, okay, energy, okay, money, okay, labor, okay. And maybe all those are just symptoms of the greater thing that they've been trying to do, and that's prevent us from ever tapping into the fact that we very well may have more of the power of a God in us that we have not yet developed in us that can change everything. We have the power to create life. We have the power to speak into our existence with our words, things, for better or for worse. There's a bit of a time delay on that, but it still works. We have the power to create reality. We're just ignorant to the mechanics and the math of how that all works. We have more power within us than most people on this planet could ever fathom. And when you look at some of these movies that they've put where they show certain ones of us having all this power, and I know they trivialize it by making it superheroes and like Superman and, these Marvel comics or whatever they show us, kind of trivialize it in an entertainment form. Maybe they've been showing us all along what's out there, what's possible, what they're doing, what we're capable of. Because somewhere along the line, I figured out they have an obligation to tell us the truth. They cannot do what they're doing without telling us. I don't know how the fuck that works. I don't know what rules they're supposedly following that forces them. Maybe it's some cosmic natural law thing that I'm unaware of because they don't follow their own fucking rules. But apparently, they've been very diligently following the rules that say you got to tell them. You got to tell them what you're doing. And they're just smart enough to be able to present that truth to us in a way that makes it so that we're not aware of it. I mean, isn't that amazing? The truth right underneath our noses, hidden in plain sight. All of this stuff. And when you look at the fact that the people in power, they're all working with this magic trying to control us and raise their ability, talking to the gods, yada. I mean, man has now gotten to the point where somebody's funding these guys doing this transhumanism thing. Why do you think? Because somewhere man knows we got all this power, but we know this body's fucked up. I don't know. It kind of is contradictory because the body contains the DNA, where it would be the source of the power I'm suggesting we very well may have. And if the body is going to die and this transhumanism thing goes through and we can take your consciousness out of your body, then you're no longer going to have that DNA. So I don't know where that theory actually falls or if that shoots my theory in the ass. But the powers that be on this planet have been putting billions and billions and billions of dollars into this transhumanism thing for something. What is it that they know? Now think about this for a second. I know I'm 37 minutes in, and this is a longer one. And whoever's managed to stay this long, I don't know. But think about this. Why in the hell would the powers that be? It's like, what do they know? Or what don't they know? Because why would you want to take your consciousness out of your body and put it into a cartridge that could then be, added to another biological meat suit, that you could become alive again with that consciousness? They're really trying to do that if they haven't already done that. Why? Think about this for a second. Why? What do they know that we do not, that would cause them to want to do that rather than just die like the rest of us, like we always have, and go on to the next level, get recycled back in and experience this shit again? What do they know? Think about that. Why in the fuck would they not want to die in that way? What do they know about death? Maybe some of these motherfuckers know that once they die, the karmic consequences that they're going to have to deal with in the afterlife or in another life, if they happen to come back in and they don't get to choose the family they're in, and then they have to suffer all the karmic consequences for the shit they've set in motion here, this go around. There's so many ways to look at this, and some of this is a little rambly, some of this is a little babbly, but this is, my mind goes into these modes sometimes, and, I clean it up as it becomes more refined. These cycles of thought are like a lump of clay on a potter's wheel, and they form over time. And I don't craft them to meet or fit my view of things, the way I want things to be. I'm trying to mold and craft these things to show what it is I'm seeing, to show what it is I'm considering to be possible in the experience of and the effort of looking for the truth. Because underlying it all, we've all been so fucking lied to, it's not even funny. So, yeah, morning coffee. Have a good day, people.